What's going on, everyone? This is Dustin Stelzer with another episode of Journey to Master, and today we're going to talk about what your role is as a journeyman electrician. So, a lot of apprentices ask, what changes once you become a journeyman? You know, you've been an apprentice for 4 years, but like, what's really going to change? So you get a license, you know, like, how does that change anything? Well, if you become a journeyman and you work on your own for a while, there's going to be a certain path. If you become a journeyman and you have a helper under you right away, there's going to be another path. Your role as a journeyman becomes an income earner for whatever company that you're working for. You got to think of it in terms of, as an apprentice, you're a helper. So you kind of help the efficiency of the guys around you, but you're not really that much of an income earner. You cost more money than you make the company because they're paying you to just be on a job, but they can't pay you to make more money. Does that make sense? So if I own a company, and I've got a guy, a journeyman, that can go out in the field and he can do jobs. He can just bang jobs out. Sure, I'm paying that guy or that girl the whole time that they're working, but they're also making me money. Whereas a helper, when I go send you out, I can't just send you out independently. I've got to send you out with a guy. So you kind of make a crew cost more, whereas if it was just the journeyman himself or herself, they would be able to do all of this work and bring checks in. So they'd be, you know, an expense up to a certain point, but then they would have a bunch of income that they're able to bring. So I could go do a bunch of work. A journeyman could go do a bunch of work. We have two income earners. So being a journeyman, you got to think about it like that. Like now you're no longer just some liability, some guy or, you know, some guy that doesn't know what they're doing and that has to be trained and has to have all this time and money poured into them for 4 straight years. Once you get that J card, you're out on your own, you're trusted, you're now an asset to the company. So, that being said, as a journeyman, now you can go out and do work on your own. You know, you're still under the supervision of the master. You're still, you know, licensed and working under a master that has a contracting company, but you're able to be more independent. You're the one out in the field that has to figure all this shit out. You come across a problem. Sure, you can call the office, but you're getting paid more to try to figure things out. Your job is to figure things out constantly. And you got to be able to do that up to a certain point without having to ask questions all the time. Hopefully, after 4 years of an apprenticeship, you've asked a lot of questions, so you kind of get the gist of how all this stuff works. You're going out on jobs. So now you have this accumulation of knowledge that you've had over a few years, and it's your turn to be able to go out in the field and figure shit out on your own. So you're being trusted and you're being paid more to solve problems. And with the problems that you're solving, the amount of responsibility goes up quite a bit. So you have to play the politics thing because you're going into business and you're talking to business owners and you're now the face of the company. People ask you things, so when they're asking so-and-so electrician, so-and-so journeyman, all of these questions, and you're interacting with them, they are seeing so-and-so company on the shirt. They're not seeing the master electrician that owns the company or the lady that answers the phones. You are the company in their eyes. When you step foot on a job, this is the company walking in my door. So you have a responsibility in how you act and how you treat people and the kind of work you do. Like every single thing that you do matters, like crucially matters. So not only are you responsible for the way that you act and the way that you know, how you do work, and if when you leave shit still doesn't work and you got to come back and do more service calls, all of that stuff adds up to the total customer experience. And you kind of have to play politics a little bit. You know, we get jobs on these big custom homes where we go back like 14 times because they have all these changes that they want. And, you know, like we've explained things 5 different times to them, and they finally were like at home thinking one night, and they're like, oh, I wonder if I should ask them this. And then they ask, and it's like, yeah, dude, we've already talked about that 5 fucking times. I've asked you over and over and over. But you can't be a dick about it. You can. You absolutely can. It's probably not going to work out very well for you or for your boss or for your company, but you have to play the politics game. You got to keep the customers happy. You have to keep your boss happy, but so like keeping your boss happy pretty much is keeping the customer happy. But you have to like ride this line of being able to say no to people, or being able to put things in a certain way so somebody realizes that they're an idiot without actually calling them an idiot. There's a lot of things that you learn over the years around being around these older, wiser guys and how they say things to people. It's like, whoa. He didn't even have to be a dick, but he got through to them on a level where they realize they're a fucking idiot for this reason or whatever, like, there gets to be a point with some customers where you want to lose your shit. You want to rip all your fucking hair out because you're so sick of these people. But you, as the journeyman, have to keep your shit together. You're no longer a helper that can just walk away and be like, I'm going to let my journeyman deal with this. I'm going to go out and smoke a cigarette. No, you're the guy that has to deal with it all. So the amount of responsibility goes up quite a bit. The pay goes up in proportion to that. So you're being paid in concordance to the difficulty of the problem that you're able to solve. Really, that's what your pay scale is all about. So if you're getting paid $20 an hour, then you're probably not solving that big of problems. But if you're able to solve like really intense problems, you 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80 an hour, who knows? What else? So that's just in general as a journeyman. Now, you have to add the whole having an apprentice thing. This is a whole other side of the equation. So I think it's a good idea once a journeyman gets their journeyman's card and they're out there starting to run jobs, pretty early on giving them a helper. That's just my personal experience. Some people think, like let them go out in the field, let them learn how to just be alone and be a journeyman and have responsibility and all that without having a helper. But I personally I've seen people both ways, and I think that a person being able to train someone, when you teach somebody something, you reinforce things in your mind and you kind of learn new ways of thinking about things. So I think that it amplifies your ability to learn when you have a helper. Now that being said, having a helper is another level of stress because they're fucking using your tools. They're not putting shit back. They're fucking things up all the time. They're breaking stuff. Sometimes they just don't get like social cues and they start talking about really inappropriate shit when they're around like some 80-year-old woman customer that's sweet, and it's like you just have this other person that's around that is now a liability, and it's your ass. Whatever they do is your ass. So there's kind of like ups and downs to it. But I think overall, in general, your role as a journeyman should be to be a teacher. There's some journeymen out there that do not want to teach. They just want to wear tools, strap up, and go to work and do good work. Or do hack work, or they just want to get a fucking paycheck and go home and drink beer. There's a lot of different spectrums of people out there. But me personally, I think that as a journeyman, I think if you have built up this knowledge base over years and years of doing something, I feel like you have a responsibility to pass that knowledge on. That's how this trade works. That's how every trade works. You get guys that get into this fresh when they're young. They start learning a lot. Then new young guys come in. The older guys start teaching the younger guys so that the new younger guys can become the new older guys, and then the more younger guys. And that's how the trade keeps passing on and going on and throughout the years just developing. That's how the shit works. So I feel as a journeyman that it's your responsibility really to pass on your knowledge. Now, the way in which you do that, yeah, it's going to change drastically depending on personalities. There are some journeymen out there, apprentices, that you're going to meet that are just fucking assholes. They yell at you, they scream at you, they call you a fucking idiot. It's going to happen. It's just, there's some people that do not want to be a teacher, and they do not want to put up with working around somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. It just pisses them off. They're not the type of people that give a shit about your feelings. They're not the type of people that give a shit about teaching. They're they just want to be them, and they just want to do work, and it's them, them, them. It has nothing to do with other people around. They don't generally see things that way. They see me, my work, you're fucking with my thing, get the fuck out of here, you know? So you just have to understand the kind of people that you're working around. There are some people that love teaching. Like, I am personally one of them. I love to be around people that ask a lot of questions. Yeah, it's annoying as fuck when you've got a day one helper and they have no idea what to do. And it's like, dude, just go grab wire nuts. Well, what's wire nuts? They're the fucking red things in the bin with the little screw thing on the inside. You know, and then they walk up to you with like a fucking ring tight coupling. You know, it can be irritating, but I like that aha moment. I like being able to teach somebody something and then be like, fucking cool, I get it. Okay, so now that I understand that, like, how does this work? And just being there and teaching, I don't know what it is. It's something about my personality that I just love to fucking teach. But I think that every journeyman needs to take seriously how they teach and what they teach and the way that they say things to people and the way they interact with people around them. Because there are a lot of people that have personalities that clash with other people. And when you're green or new to being in this trade, people that are assholes can very quickly turn somebody who's new away from the trade completely. Like, they'll make them think, fuck, I should not be trying to do this. I've never worked a wrench. I've never turned a screwdriver in my life. Like, this is not for me. And then there are people out there that would look at that same person and be like, dude, I didn't either. I never fucking touched a screwdriver in my life before I started doing this. And I'm a master electrician now, you know. That, I guess, not me. I've had a lot of other construction jobs before I got into electrical. But I have some apprentices right now that are like 3rd and 4th year apprentices that have never done a fucking thing. They've never twisted tools. When they first started out, I was like, holy shit, maybe you should still be delivering pizzas. Maybe this is not going to be your thing. But you know what? After a while, they just get it. They start caring and developing because they'll have a teacher that fucking cares about them. So it makes them want to do better and start to learn things. And then you see those guys go with a different journeyman for a while who's a fucking asshole, and they want to quit. They can't stand being an electrician, and they can't stand being around somebody that's just fucking degrading every day. I get it. I wouldn't want to either. So I guess it's for apprentices that one day want to be a journeyman. It's some stuff to think about. Pay attention to the guys that you work around, how they treat each other, how some of the journeymans treat some of the apprentices, and how the whole thing works. Because just if you go to one company and you see 4 guys that are assholes, and you think like that's how this trade is, that's how every company is. No, if you go to another company, you're going to see guys that are like, the entire company, everybody is fucking cool with each other, and they all like each other, and they would have each other's back and go to war for one another. So there's a lot of different variances about how that all goes. But once you're a journeyman, like, if you have an apprentice under you, you have to understand that that's going to be part of your job. You may work in service and get fortunate to be in your own truck by yourself, and that's your thing. And that's cool if that's all you want to do as well. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you end up with an apprentice, I think that you have a huge responsibility. There's a lot of things to think about. Not only do you have the responsibility of you having to do all of this shit, but you have a responsibility of making sure this other person that doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't fuck anything up, doesn't kill themselves, and making sure that all the while that they're doing everything that you're teaching them. So your job is like this huge balancing act once you get an apprentice. When it's just you by yourself, man, you can fucking coast. But I personally think that, like, for me, I just see more value in being able to teach every day, because it's like having a mirror to myself for ideas. When they ask a question, I'm like, okay, fuck, I haven't thought about how that works in a while. So, like, how do I explain that to them in a way that makes sense? Because I can read a book and read all this crazy engineering lingo and kind of half understand something, but when somebody asks me a question, it's like, okay, I got to explain this in a way that somebody that doesn't know any of this shit would be able to understand it. So, like, let me think of an analogy, you know? And so you start wrapping your head around things in different ways, and you start gaining this crazy understanding of stuff because it just opens your mind. It expands your mind. So that's my piece, man. That's really your role as a journeyman. Again, is just you're a moneymaker now. You're an asset instead of a liability. You're a trainer, and you're somebody that can be relied upon, and you will be relied upon. If you can't be relied upon, you're not going to last very long. So, as an apprentice for the next 4 years of your career, or 5 years, depending on what state you're in, really think about how am I every day acting so that I am viewed as an asset to this company and to all these guys around me, rather than a fucking liability that they don't want to have around. So, love you guys. Take it easy. Be safe. Love this trade. And kick some ass. Peace out.